Welcome to the Windy City's Finest On Location with Mac and Perry. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is...
Alexis Bialobzyski.
There we go. So Alexis, thanks so much for joining us. I'm excited to learn about your art and your artistic practice. But first, we're going to just play some kind of icebreaker games, some get-to-know-you games.
Perfect.
We're going to start with trivia. How are you at trivia?
Pretty bad.
Pretty bad, good. All right, yeah, that's okay.
Actually, well, it depends. Yeah, no, pretty bad.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, that's fine.
I like to think I know stuff.
Yeah, well, it's Lethbridge trivia.
Oh.
Very basic. We're not
see.
historians, we're not trivia experts, but I'll throw a question to you.
Okay.
See how you do.
All right.
So Lethbridge's motto, it's on the flag or
Windy
crest
City.
or whatever, is
shoot, I get it. There's actual choices.
It is multiple choice.
Oh, wow, that's good. That's better.
Multiple choice.
That's
I'm
better.
sorry that I didn't say that originally.
Okay, that's okay.
Multiple choice.
Everybody's like C.
A,
Oh, okay.
a place to grow.
Oh.
B, bridging communities.
Oh.
C, the Windy City. Or D, gateway to opportunity.
Well, I think it's the Windy City.
You think that's our official motto
Well,
of our
it's probably
city?
something more technical than that, but you know what? It should be the Windy City.
There we go. Unfortunately, it's not. We are working on the
Bridging.
petition. Make sure you sign the petition.
Bridging?
It's actually gateway to opportunity.
Oh, gateways.
Adopted in 1907 and still remains today.
That's good too.
Right, now you know. All right, so our next game is called This or That. So it's just one of two options. We pick from a hat, and it's coffee or tea, cats or dogs, and you say, oh, I like cats. And
I
why?
prefer my tea not made of cats.
Yes, I agree. Sometimes I get some cat hair in the tea, but that's another thing. So we'll have you do the honors. Pick the first one.
Okay.
And you will ask me.
Camp or glamp?
Definitely camp. Yeah, I'm definitely a backcountry camper, tent camping, like to camp. Nice. I'm not really into the glamping. If the opportunity arose, I would say sure, but mostly camping. Yourself?
I think I'd be camper, but I think I'd be glamper. I'm gonna give you after this interview, I'm literally going to Waterton. I don't have a decent tent, but I do have a Yisk mattress that I'm shoving into the back of my Yaris. And I sleep on it.
Okay.
A little crunched up.
Yeah.
So is that camping or is that glamping?
That's definitely camping.
Okay, there we go. I'm a camper.
Yeah,
I'm a camper.
That's hardcore camping.
Because I think of a mattress. It's like, wow, that's glamping.
Yeah, but you're
And the
sleeping
mattress,
in your car.
Yeah, there you go. See,
Not too bougie.
confusing.
Yeah. Okay, we're both campers. All right, I think we'll move on to our other game, our tumbling towers. So as you can see, tumbling towers. So each block does correspond to a number which has a question. And these are more open-ended questions, like what's your perfect day look like?
Oh, okay.
Who
wow.
inspires you?
All right,
Bigger, deep
let's do
questions.
it.
We're getting bigger here.
Okay, but don't try to tumble it on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and actually play it right.
And if you really want to play, we don't do the top three, but then when you take one off, you put it on top. So.
I already know which one I'm picking.
Okay, good luck. Go for it. How about you start?
It's the age I feel like I will always be.
Okay.
So what age would that be? I think I'm 20 years
old.
old.
Okay.
Do you think I can do it?
I don't think you should.
You don't think so?
You
Come
should
on,
really be strategic about this.
I think we can. Now here's the thing. If you go back and forth, you can do, and you're patient. There you go.
Wow.
That's 20.
Impressed.
It's going to fall like your next one, though.
Right?
That's the thing.
What do you find yourself recommending to people you first meet?
So we have a saying in our household, especially when we go on little road trips and stuff, it's get out of the car. Just get out. The rule is you got to get out of the car.
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
How about for you?
For me, I would say, I'm going to use one I've used before. I always find myself recommending with the library.
Oh.
They have a library of things. So you can sign out sports equipment, you can sign out cooking stuff. I think it's great. Not enough people know about it. Lethbridge Public Library, library of things. I'm always recommending it.
I love the idea of do what you want to do, but try to do it for free.
That's great.
That's what I love about libraries.
Right.
You don't have to buy the book.
You don't have to buy it.
Or the movie, or try it out. All right.
Yeah, I think that's all the time we have for this segment.
Cool.
But I'll be coming back and chatting with you about your artistic practice. So this is the Windy City's Finest On Location with Mac and Perry. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is...
Alexis Bialobzyski.
We'll be right back. what is your artistic practice, if you can kind of summarize that?
Summarize it. Okay, well, when I was quite young, I remember always being quite interested in art. And I always thought, because when you always have grandparents say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I knew I wanted to be an artist, whatever that looked like or was shaped like. It wasn't so much a job, it just was artist. And I remember being even in, high school, junior high, and thinking to myself, because, everyone's like, what are you going to do with that? Kind of classes you're going to take, and what are your interests? And my interests all through being quite young, even before attending kindergarten, I always loved to draw. And I was thinking like, you're getting up in the ages and you're thinking, do I want to specialize in an area? And there's a saying, do you want to be a jack of all trades and a master of none? And I was like, yes, please. That is me. Because I think the world's just a little too interesting to be specific in just one area, but not to say one area isn't really interesting. But just my practice has always been, I've always attended a liberal arts. I was really lucky to go to post-secondary for that. And even when I was attending high school, I didn't always get the chance to take fine arts as an elective, but I was always interested and practiced it. What is my art? I would like to keep it simple in saying that I am a visual artist. I tend to work in multimedias and generally producing two-dimensional works.
And I'm curious, like when you were very young, you said like you started drawing, and I know you said your artistic practice is several different things, but yeah, as you were growing up and getting older, I guess were there any kind of touchstone points where you said, okay, I want to be an artist? Like what came next after that?
I think, so I grew up in a lot of rural Alberta communities, small, so there wasn't always the resources, right? And even in school, I didn't always get the chance to be in an art class, depending on, your scheduling and stuff like that. I remember asking my mom if she could draw me, when I was quite young, a horse, and she drew one. I was like, yeah, that's okay, that's all right. You just, what came next, I think because I always knew that was an interest for me, and even through, college, I knew I was gonna go to college for art. And I thought that's where I'm gonna just get, a liberal arts degree, I would like to do a visual arts diploma. And that was the start. So I went to Grand Prairie Regional College for that, because that's where my family was located at the time, and started at Grand Prairie. And it was called a college, not a polytechnic.
They did change at some point.
And my first studio classes as a college student at Grand Prairie was at Studio B. That was a very special place, because it was separate from the rest of the university. It had its own area. It was like, yes, you're an art student. And there were a lot of students that took art classes, but that was my major. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And then went to Lethbridge, University of Lethbridge, and got my degree, visual fine arts. And I graduated in 2001, I want to say.
Okay, yeah. So you graduated from the University of Lethbridge, like you said, 2001 or so?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to ask this a few times. What came next after that? You're a recent grad.
What came next after that? Well, that's the big question, right? It's like, what are you going to, that is literally the question.
Right.
I heard all through art school, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? I was like, well, I actually got a job right out of school at the Southern Alberta Art Gallery teaching kids that summer. So that was pretty cool. I did not want to continue working in an environment that was a gallery, though. I wasn't an art administrator. I just felt, and I think I have a real passion for art and sharing that passion, but I'm also, kids aren't my jam. I don't mind. It's like dogs or cats. I'm more of an old person
Fair.
than a kid person.
Okay. Yeah.
Not to say kids aren't great, but I was just not my jam. So I was like, at the time I had the opportunity, I would actually move back to Winnipeg and stayed out there for a couple of years. And honestly, kind of got a little lost. I was like, what am I doing with my life? And it was Winnipeg because I have family there. I've been there before. It's a cool place for artist collectives, for music. I was very involved with, just the symphony, or going to different venues to watch a lot of different classical, and also just immerse myself in that culture there, but honestly didn't find my passion or my work. So then what did I do? I came back to Lethbridge.
Okay.
Yes. And then what did I do?
Then what did you do? Yeah.
I had, so many jobs. You name a job, I have had it. Go.
Firefighter.
No, they wouldn't take me.
Bookstore person.
Yes, I have worked in a bookstore.
What else? What other jobs could you have done? Grocery store.
Yes, I did, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, where we're sitting right now used to be a grocery store, and I used to work in it.
We are in Casa. We did not mention that.
Yes, thank you, Casa, for lending
they were a grocery store before.
Well, they weren't.
Well, no.
The land here, it housed an IGA.
Oh, the IGA.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
That was
we lived in my roommates and I, we would come to IGA at Christmas and buy our Christmas tree and walk it back to our, over in Falcon Crest on the hill apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, I totally forgot this was an IGA.
Yeah.
Wow.
An IGA.
Yeah.
I actually worked in the bakery. I didn't work that long, and then they were, I think they were unionizing or something. Turns out, I think I worked for free because the union, for the short amount of time I worked, I ended up owing some union dues or something. It was a short period of time.
Yeah.
It was a good bakery.
Great.
Anyway.
Yeah, and so you've got many different jobs. Are you still making art when you're doing these other jobs?
Yes, absolutely. I actually, during the time that I came back to Lethbridge, and that's one thing that drew me back was, people that I graduated with were here. Moved in with them for a bit and had a billion jobs, but in the meantime, we all had studio spaces for very cheap downtown Lethbridge in the old Oliver building. And they were kind of called the Potemkin Collective. So it had been there before we had graduated by other artists in the city, but it was a space that was rentable, was fairly cheap, pretty rundown, and you could create art in. And there were artists not from the university, but people after they graduated, if they were serious, they wanted to. So I think there were nights where I even stayed up there just doing art, and it was a community. Which is important. I think just nice to go up there and have the support, but also a space that's designated to it, which is definitely missing. It's hard to find. Even now, because the Oliver building right now, we moved out, it was starting to get pretty bad, and I think it was bought up, and then they refurbished it, so there's businesses and stuff. A lot of times what happens, I find, even in history, is that you have places in a city that are not really, dare I say, desirable. Guess what? The artists move in because it's the only place that they can freaking afford. With a bunch of people clean it up a bit. Artists move in, the rats move out. And then they make it nice, and then maybe we could do something with this space. Maybe.
Yeah.
What's cool about Casa, which I have utilized since or whatever, is they have rentable space that's very cheap, but it's not like you can just leave it all, like you don't have a table where you just, the muck-muck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about the muck-muck. You gotta put it away, but they give you very affordable space to do your muck-muck. You just have to store it. And only work on one muck-muck at a time.
Yeah. It's really nice to have your own space.
It really is. My husband right now, Darcy, who I'd moved in with at the time, and then, we've stayed in Lethbridge and moved out of that apartment since. There came a time where even he was having a hard time. He always had a studio and a practice. So I always surrounded myself with people who were very like-minded. And I was always part of, even if I didn't have my own show and I always participated in group shows or things. There's lots of calls that are very, very approachable for new artists even. So just being part of that, and we actually created a lot of our own shows up at the Potemkin because we had the space.
Sure.
We used the hallways. We bought the cheapest lights, those clip lights with the bulb, and all these extension cords. I mean, it was super, it looked good at night, but in the daytime, it was like, ooh. But it was a cool place to go. We would always try to have some sort of a show or an opening during the same time that the SAG was having their opening, or the Bowman or the Trianon. And so it could be a place like, oh, you go here, you go, like an art crawl kind of. And people ended up at the Potemkin. And we did have a bar, and we did have a liquor license. I'm sure of it. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We were very, yeah, we did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that time like for you? You're making the art in that space and putting on exhibits.
Really, it was great. I mean, I feel like that it's, you know, I look fondly on it. And really, when I think about, you know, we're in 2025. That was in 2003 that I moved up there, 2004. And then kind of, you know, 5, 6, I think we had moved from the Oliver at one point to the fire hall downstairs. So it was always like we were moving, like we had to find new spots and stuff. And during that time, I'm looking for work, right? I'm always like, oh, another job. Well, finally I kind of had enough. And I was like, you know, I went to the provincial building and I said, you know, I think, what do you have for retraining? What do you have for that sort of thing? Because it's very difficult to make money as an artist, but it's not to say that there isn't, you know, opportunities. I didn't want to travel the world. I knew I needed some stability. I'm more of a homebody type. I had a good balance with my, you know, artistic endeavors with my friends and that kind of thing. I felt like I just want to make a living. I want to pay off some student debt. That's necessary, right? I did go to the college in that meantime with a few different programs, digital design, you name it, I did it. Anyway, and I took the healthcare aid training course. And then I worked as a healthcare aide for, I think, almost 6 years. And I really liked it. Yeah.
What did you like about being a healthcare aide?
I think because it was helping people. I think because it sort of was, I felt useful. It also gave me a paycheck, and I was able to life balance now with my work and art. I could actually afford the supplies I needed, you know, if I needed studio space. So that was nice, because that was a kind of a nice, but guess what? I got a little bit bored. And I saw all the other nurses making a little more money, and I liked the work, and I was like, I could do that. And yes, I did go back to school.
You got your nursing degree, right?
Yes, my Bachelor of Nursing after degree. So what it is, it takes my fine arts courses, all those, because it's a degree, and then all I had to do was a nursing courses after that. And I did that at University of Lethbridge, so I didn't even have to move.
There we go. Were there things from your fine arts background that maybe benefited you being a nurse?
I think, you know, the critical, you're always, something that you do a lot of in fine arts, at least when I was going, was critiques. Learning how to take a crit, learning how to do a crit, learning how to problem solve, critical think. Overall, I think there's such a value in liberal arts that a well-rounded human being, I don't know, like that's so valuable. I'm not saying I am that all the time, but having kind of this sort of overall, looking at the bigger picture of things, I don't say all artists do that, but I'm saying I was sort of trained to do that.
And that helps you in your nursing?
I think it does. Looking at situations as a bigger picture as opposed to, you know, just the body.
Yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying that. Yeah. And how do you balance your nursing work with your artistic work?
I think it's important to look at your schedule and not to work too much overtime. And I think in this very overscheduled world we live in, to have time that is flexible. And you need time to step back and enjoy your life. And I find I make the best work when I'm able to do that. It's a struggle. I don't have children. I have 2 dogs, which I know kids who have families are like, oh God, you poor thing. I'm lucky that I've created a lot of, I've built my life to be as simple as possible at home, but at the same time space, even though it's small, for me to kind of enjoy that endeavor.
Yeah, and that kind of relates to our last question we try to always ask people is how has your artistic practice influenced your everyday life? How has it changed that maybe?
Well, I always think of myself as an artist in the sense that even if I'm not producing, I'm thinking like an artist. I'm creative, like a creative mind, someone who can think outside the box is so valuable. And anybody who works with someone who's like that, I mean, they can be a little extra sometimes, maybe, and maybe not. Maybe they're super introverted. But people with a different perspective have a lot to offer our universe, I think, and our community. It starts small. So I like to think that my openness to learn new things in my practice is important, and be part of different things is important, because then it actually makes more opportunities available. And in my work, I would say the same thing. You know what? It's about connecting with resources. It's not just about the ego for me. It's not just about the piece. It's about the practice and being able to share some ideas. Connecting with an audience is very important. And connecting with other artists. I think it's sort of like, if we're working so hard and we're, you know, trying to be stable and create a life for ourselves, what's the point if you don't, I don't know, for me, that art has always been a very core value even since I was a kid.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's great. Yeah.
And what are you gonna do with that? Well, you can do a lot.
You can do
it
clearly.
sneaks in places.
Right. Yeah.
And it makes people happy. And if you share your creative ability, even at work in little ways, it'll surprise you.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's a great note to end on. So, yeah, I really have appreciated this conversation, Alexis. It's been nice to know about your artistic practice.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So this has been the Windy City's Finest On Location with Mac and Perry. I'm Mac, he's Perry, and this is
Alexis Bialobzyski.
We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome once again to the Windy City's Finest On Location here at CASA. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is
Alexis Bialobzyski.
Yes! I thoroughly enjoyed your segments with Mac, and I'm super excited to dive into our showcase segment with you and just kind of hear about some of your pieces, maybe go see some of them eventually. And where I really wanted to start this part of the conversation was around that idea of being a jack of all trades, which you talked about a lot with Mac, and also the muck-muck. I'm super curious.
You know, you never guess that I went to like art school when I call it muck-muck.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. It's the emotion of it. Yeah.
And has that always been a thing for you, or like does that show up elsewhere in your life?
Well, I think I've always been interested. Actually, even when it was actually grade 8, I started writing because my friend Anna, she was super cool and she had a poetry book. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I got myself it wasn't a duotang, it was a scribbler. Coil scribbler.
Okay.
And I made a practice every night. I'm going to write a poem. I'm going to sit down and do it. And I always named my books. And the first book I had was Anna's String, and I tied a string to it because she got me started on that. And that was grade 8.
Oh, wow. And yeah, I also really appreciated, you mentioned like, you know, sit down and do it every night, the discipline of it. Was that successful or not?
I'm not going to say it was successful. I'm going to say it did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think it made it clear to me in my practice that I was doing it in a very mindful manner. So whether it was good or not didn't really matter. I think just doing it, and I think that even goes for my visual art practice. Not to say that I do it as often as I used to, but definitely when I was getting into drawing or trying to draw or life drawing, all that kind of stuff, if you don't do it, if you don't practice, you don't get better.
We do have a piece of poetry that I would like to dive into.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know if there's like this idea around poetry of like trying to explain it before you do it.
You know what? And that's one thing in school. It was like, okay, let's read a poem. And either you're into it or you're not.
Right.
And I was always the person that, I was always into it. I mean, I loved, and I do find that I had an affinity to find out, like I could grab the theme pretty quick, just because I liked it. So now, I think, you know what, let it stand for itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so she sits on the second last seat on the bus near the door, consumed by her ratty paperback. Time and author a little bit unknown, she grips the book's well-exercised spine, massages the scantily printed image, and flips the flaky yellow pages, keeping time with her daydream acrobatics of pirates washing up on shores and cowboys with white horses, whispering into her ear the rumblings and promises to a hopeful woman with no plans, no ring, no one yet. To watch her come home, pet her cat, and scrub her kitchen floor in the underwear she bought at the local department store.
Wow, it's very rich, like the words. Yeah, and like even the way you read it, which I'm always curious about with poetry because it's like.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't been trained. I did take some drama in college. I always did the speech arts when I was a kid back in, all the little places I lived in, but I don't know. You got to feel it. You got to be in that mindset. I feel like for me, I try to write about a character because then it's almost a metaphor for something else. It's not it's this is this person's perspective and what they're going through. And a lot of times people can identify with that. Not to say that I can always be identified with, but everybody's got their own identity. And if I take a character, sometimes that helps to connect with your audience and create a little story.
And is that always the intention with your pieces of poetry?
No, but it seems to be the most effective for me right now. And something I'm thinking about and working on. Yeah.
Nice. We are back, and we are here in the gallery at CASA, which I'm super excited for. Would you mind, Alexis, just giving us a bit of context as to the overall show, and then we'll dive into your pieces specifically?
Oh, gosh. Well, can I speak to the whole show? What an amazing show. Returning the Stories. It was actually put on by CASA, and in partnership with the Japanese Gardens here in Lethbridge. Inviting people to, talk about and, to present work that reflected their relationship with Japanese gardens. So it went in all directions.
Totally.
My direction was the seasons. When I go to the Japanese gardens, I think, springtime. Oh, it's a little different in summer. It's different in fall. And then we have the Winter Lights Festival, which is super amazing. And I think, actually, interestingly enough, during the Winter Lights Festival at Japanese Gardens this past year, in 2024, their theme was the seasons. So their light show actually depicted that. So that's where I went, and I created a piece of mukmuk for each season. And for each mukmuk, I did a little haiku.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of where I'm at. I was looking at it very formally as to like, how can I execute the feelings, the emotions of the season, and put them together as one piece, because they're all four,
right,
but together they're seen as almost like a mountain.
Awesome. Are the haikus on the tab over there?
Yeah.
Would you mind going and reading the first one? And
Sure.
then we'll just take a second to look over the first one, and then we'll come back together.
Okay, so the first one is spring. Haru is spring. And cold nights ending soon. Warm mornings coming early now. Greet the sun and rain.
Was there like specific instances or experiences that you had at the space in the springtime?
You know what? Honestly, when I go there, a lot of it is that very introspective space that you're invited to slow down, to calm. And when I think about spring, it's kind of a lot of rain generally. Even for this area, we don't get a lot of rain, although we have the summer. But usually it's the rain that brings on the new growth. And so that was a big thing that I was thinking about. Natsu, summer. Sunshine and warm days, burn winter blues and find love, legs free and so brown. Akai, fall. Wind strikes full blossoms, reaching to steal the jewels, leaving the trees nude.
I'm very curious about the color choices as well.
Sure.
And also the structure in the paintings.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What can you tell me about
Okay,
structure?
what can I tell you about structure? Well, you know what? I'll be honest. If I can't hang it on, like I think about, okay, how am I going to execute what I want to do and what kind of material am I going to use? I needed things to be framed. You know what? I tend to work not on stretched canvas right now, but I have in the past, which is fine. But I just had a bunch of these already previously made, these frames, and I liked the size, so I started with the frame.
Interesting.
Actually, I started with my husband making my frames.
Nice.
And you know what? I mean, it takes a village sometimes, and to figure out how you're, like because I like things to look a certain way, and I want to present them a certain way, I want to present them finished, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on that. So I actually work on, the pieces are on masonite and then pine, and pretty simple frames. In the frame itself, I usually take rag paper or any kind of other paper materials and start building sort of my base. And then I will use gesso sometimes if I'm using old pieces. If a piece doesn't make the cut, it will get destroyed. It will be used in another piece. And I mean, nothing's wasted, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be expensive materials either. So there's a lot of randomness to my work, and I build it up. And then I create sort of a general idea. I keep it pretty open, and then I start to kind of work in that image and try to somehow marry both the image and the texture. I'm gonna say, there's not a lot of some people sit down I'm gonna draw, well, I asked my mom once, I need you to draw me a horse, and she tried her very best, but it wasn't always successful. I might have an image and an idea, a concept, but I really don't push it. I'm gonna make this happen. It's not a realism.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I just kind of roll with it a bit and see what happens. And because I felt that, I was kind of working more with the one that came easiest to me was the fall. And I wanted something that would kind of bring all the pieces together. So I thought, well, if I'm doing 4 seasons, what's going to bring them together? And I want the image of the mountainside, because the mountains change in the seasons. Definitely the foothills.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of imagery in Japanese culture of the mountain too, mountains. But I mean, that's just my perception of it, and I just felt like the beauty of nature and So I have fall and winter pointing in this direction, and then summer and spring pointing the other, to kind of create where your eye actually wants to go into the middle.
Wow, yeah.
So it's very a formalistic kind of way of approaching visual art.
Yeah.
You got to think, where am I drawing the viewer's perspective? What makes it interesting? How am I utilizing negative, positive space? How am I utilizing different colors and schemes? So I really struggled, and my least favorite of the 4 is, parents shouldn't do this to their children, but summer.
Interesting.
It just wasn't dark enough. And I think actually in summertime there's a lot of expectations. We're gonna do all the fun stuff. We're gonna, nope. It really is such a precious short period of time that, it's gone before you know. And what is it? Well, it's usually the space between school and going back to school, or maybe you're lucky enough to get time off at work. So there's I felt a lot of pressure with the summertime.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think it just, subconsciously.
Yeah, that's super fair. I would be remiss if we didn't get the haiku and the last piece.
Sure.
Because I also got to see this skull. So yeah, whenever
All
you're
right,
ready.
so the winter, right? Fayu. And I'm pretty sure I pronounced that correctly, but if I didn't, please forgive me. Frozen and sleeping, with the silent, crisp bedsheet, heavy and tired. What I did speak to the work just generally, just to give you an idea, this was my statement, is each work is representational of one of the 4 seasons. The gardens and the seasons are steeped in awe and mystery. As we are invited to visit the gardens beyond the wall, that's the Japanese gardens, the seasons invite us to delve beyond the surface and shed a light on our inner aspects. The gardens change with the seasons, which provide context and serve as a guide for discovering something esoteric within. Pairing each work is a haiku that I wrote, and that's what I said about it.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
and energy.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're such a pleasure, both of you.
And your insight and sharing your pieces with us. Yeah, this has been the Windy City's finest on location here at CASA. He's Mac, I'm Perry, and this is me.
Alexis Bialobzyski.
It's Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry.
Go live to create.
Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.